So, Rings of Power, Season 2. Johnny, the content just keeps coming and coming. It's kind of never ending these days.
It's like Christmas morning.
Yeah, it's kind of like, that expression when you're waiting for a bus, none arrives, and then suddenly they all come at once.
And then you don't get the bus, and you get in your car. Oh, that expression.
Exactly. And it's piss and rain because you live in Ireland.
Yeah.
I don't know. Will there be anything left at all before the show actually airs? I don't really know. I just want to explain to the listeners as well. The funny thing was we were just about to sit down and discuss yesterday's behind the scenes big 3.5 minute video trailer thing when all of a sudden another video just drops by the Rings of Power or Amazon on Prime or whatever it is on Twitter and Instagram. So you guys, you're in for a real treat. And you're getting a breakdown or discussion, theorizing, whatever you want to call it, for all of this content. So, yeah, amazingly, just
buckle up.
Was it just over 2 days after the trailer drop? The trailer drop came on Friday. We get this huge behind-the-scenes dump from Amazon. So, thank you very much to the gods of Amazon.
Yes.
The Amazonians. And like I said, it's another 3.5 minutes.
And the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly. It's 3.5 minutes long and it's revealing so much more. But first of all, guys, if you haven't actually seen these clips, please go ahead and watch them before listening to this episode or watch them in conjunction. You can find them on our socials at melon_heads on Twitter, melonheads official on Instagram. So let's get into it. And also, one other thing, on the same day as the behind the scenes clip, so that for us, that's yesterday, Amazon released a little 1 month until video, which featured basically all the exact same footage as the San Diego Comic-Con trailer, with the exception of two things. So the first thing, Johnny, you've seen these, we've posted them on both Instagram and Twitter, is another look at one of the rune masked people. So we've speculated who these might be. You can check out our previous trailer explanation episode or whatever you want to call it. It could be one of the Wayne Riders, so men or tribesmen from the east known for their chariots. But the other image is what I want to ask you first about, Johnny. It was our first look at Kieran Hinds as a wizard. So first of all, what do you think, or A, what do you think of his look, and B, who is he playing?
Well, before we get into that, can I just say that Amazon, like, they're like, I don't know, they're like the women on the beach in Rio de Janeiro. They're like very revealing and a little bit too revealing at times. I'm like, Amazon, will you cover up a bit? Like, I mean, leave something for the imagination. I feel like we're getting too much information here, and you know me, I'm a bit scared when it comes to watching trailers, and I don't want to be
You're terrified.
Over-informed, and I always like to keep a bit of the mystery and keep a bit of the intrigue. And I feel like, now I will say that I think they've done a good job in both the trailer and the behind the scenes things and everything they've shown so far, that they're not just giving away massive spoilers. And it's not like when the trailer came out for was it Batman versus Superman, that one, when they're just basically told you the entire story in the trailer. They're like, oh, we're going to have Wonder Woman, and we're going to have Doomsday, and we're going to have this and that, and Doomsday shoots lasers out of his face, and it's like, oh, okay, right, so now I just don't even need to go to the film. So it's not on the same level. We are getting loads of information, but I suppose they're not, as I said, if I wasn't, like, for this podcast needing to review these episodes, I probably wouldn't needing to review these trailers, I probably wouldn't watch any of them. I just kind of keep it to myself, or I keep it till after I've watched keep it secret and keep it safe until after I've watched the series. But I will say I am pleasantly surprised with the way these trailers have come out, and this behind the scenes thing is just, it's class. I enjoyed the trailer a lot. I love the behind the scenes maybe even more than the trailers. They're so satisfying, and it always, like we've said this before, it brings us back kind of to when you're kids and you're getting the extra DVDs, or I remember when it was the VHS, and you're watching the behind the scenes to the original Lord of the Rings, and you just see, you're like, it's showing you like behind the curtain of the magic trick that you've just seen, and you're kind of like, all of life's mysteries are being revealed. You're like, this is amazing. This is so cool. Now,
it's also giving you another level of confidence as well, because you can see the effort put behind, and you can see a lot of it is practical effects,
loads
prosthetics,
of
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
we love all that kind of stuff on this podcast. So
We do.
yeah, more of that. And it just it's almost kind of like telling some of the haters about how bad they're going to say the CGI looks or how stupid something looks in a certain shot. It's almost like, here's just to show you that it actually a lot.
It's like when in season 1 they released the how they made the the title sequence. Exactly, everyone's like, "Oh, this is the worst CGI ever." And then, like literally 20 minutes later, they revealed, "Oh yeah, it was all
the behind the scenes,
all practical." Yeah, and I hadn't really put 2 and 2 together, but you've just nailed it there. You said that watching the behind the scenes has given you a bit of extra confidence. That's exactly why I felt kind of happy about having watched it without having realized that. I just made that realization now after you've said it. So it does make you feel a little bit more confident because you could see the amount of effort and work and care that's being put into all of these little minute details. We've already made comments on it in our previous episode on how we've noticed that we think that the costumes and, well, mainly the costumes, I suppose, that was the main thing we picked up on, that it just looks a little bit better. And maybe also we've remarked how maybe in season 1 there was a little bit of problems with COVID, so that meant that maybe there weren't as many extras being involved, and so some of the scenes looked like they were maybe lacking numbers, and hopefully that's not going to be an issue in season 2. And yeah, just again, you are right. I'm glad that you said that it does give you confidence, and I've just realized that's why I'm feeling happy about having seen that behind the scenes. So
yeah,
yes,
it's important. Yeah, it is important to see behind the curtain. But anyways, back to the original question about Kieran Hinds. This was confirmed. It was like properly confirmed. It was confirmed by Fellowship fans ages ago. But then I don't want to say that's not proper. But it was like actually announced and revealed that Kieran Hinds will be playing a wizard a while ago.
We got to hear you go tiny glimpse of a while ago. Yeah. And now Kieran Hinds is holding up the jersey, basically.
Exactly. So this is an Irish actor from our very own Emerald Isle, and he is playing a wizard. Now, Johnny, who is the wizard he's playing, and what do you think of his look?
Well, we speculated on this character and maybe whether or not we had seen him in the trailer. In our most recent episode where we reviewed the trailer. If you haven't listened to that, go check that one out. But I think I had mentioned that there was a scene in Rune where we see the wizard, the stranger, the strangers out in Rune, and we see the mystics, and the mystics are those people that are kind of shapeshifted every now and again into like a gang of butterflies or whatever they're doing. We see one scene where there's 3 or 4 of them standing around, and there's some person in the middle, and they're raising up this staff. And I speculated to Dave, and I said there's a possibility that we didn't get to see Kieran Hinds as a wizard. Maybe that figure could have been him there. Now, I don't want to say that that's nailed on, but this kind of image that we got did kind of almost confirm to me that that's probably that's who this is. And hopefully, what would be amazing is if now these 2 wizards kind of team up and they become the 2 blue wizards. That's really what I'm going for. I mean, again, lots of people could say like, oh, maybe the stranger is Gandalf and this is Saruman and this is going to be their first meeting of Saruman and Gandalf. But I'm like, come on, Team Blue.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things to back up your theory, because that's what I'm pushing for as well. And obviously I'm going to be trying to theorize about what I actually want to happen. And I think, first of all, if it was Saruman, which a lot of people are speculating, he's not supposed to be evil at all at this time, and he's with these mystics, and excuse me, he's doing a lot of evil things as it seems, and he just looks evil. But he also does look like Saruman, so I'll give them that. But there is talk about the blue wizards setting up cults in the east, and we also know there are 2 different versions of what the blue wizards did. So some people say that they were off setting up cults for Morgoth and like doing evil things, and some people say that didn't happen at all, that they actually came a lot later to Middle Earth and all that. I think this would be a really cool way to like kind of do both of their origin stories and say they both came at different times. One of them was actually in the east, setting up all these cults. One came on a meteor and he doesn't remember anything, and they meet up and they have to find each other, and maybe it's the evil guy coaching the good guy, the stranger, to try and be evil, and vice versa. And eventually, and we're going to see this like battle of like which wizard will overtake the other, and good prevails, hopefully. But yeah, I am hoping that they are Alatar and Palando.
Yeah.
Very there good. Are other words. There are other names, and I can't remember. One of them is Marinatar.
Marinatar.
another.
Yes. They have a few different names, but they have
there's like East Helper and East Helper and something else.
Oh god, we
Dark
spoke about this
Destroyer
so long ago. I can't remember.
I know.
Well done for you for remembering those ones: Alatar, Palando, Marinatar.
If anyone knows the other one, please drop an el commento.
Yeah, I remember we spoke about them, and one of them, we got the meanings of the two names, and one of them had this like real badass meaning. And then the other was just like, what you said,
East
like,
Helper.
East Helper. Yeah, what was the meaning of that one? It was
the other one was
class.
like it was like Dark Destroyer or something.
Dark
cool.
Flame.
Yeah, and then it was like East Helper. Yeah, so if you don't know what we're talking about, check out our episode on the Blue Wizards because it's a good one, and we discuss all the different versions of the Blue Wizards that Tolkien came up with. But anyways, I think...
and also in our recent episode where we speak about the Easterlings, or has that one come out yet? Oh, no. So in an upcoming episode that we're going to have about the Easterlings, we kind of go into a little bit of detail of what the Blue Wizards could have been doing out in the east as well, and how maybe they could have been a force for evil, but also maybe they could have delayed that force for evil and maybe stopped some of those men joining up with Sauron. So maybe in the long run, they actually were actually doing a good deed over there as well. So yeah, look out for that episode.
That is possible, where the possible meets the impossible. But anyways, I think that's enough to dwell on this one little character of Kieran Hinds. Guys, let us know who you think that wizard is. Who is he playing? But anyways, onto the first big, massive video that we got from Amazon. This behind the scenes trailer, the first video that we get, it opens up with a slow-mo of Galadriel approaching some orcs with fire and banners, and it's just a cool way to kickstart the whole massive trailer that we're about to see. But we hear a new elven character at the Barrow-downs, so again, new location. And I don't know who this new character is. I didn't see anyone talking about it online yet. And he says, "What is this place?" As he and another elf draw double daggers. Well, one of them kind of has double daggers, and it looks pretty cool. We're going to get this encounter at the Barrow-downs. So, yeah. Any thoughts on these guys?
Not really, but I am looking forward to seeing this kind of dark setting in a woods, nighttime fight scare sequence, kind of Barrow-downs. We're going to Barrow-wights. I'm assuming they're probably in the Barrow-downs if they are confirmed to be Barrow-wights, but that kind of, I'm not sure if that makes sense.
We've talked about it so many times that it doesn't make sense.
But we've got wights, whether they are Barrow-wights or not. They're going to be attacking this group of elves. It kind of started to remind me of episode 1 of the first season of Rings of Power, where there was all these elves in a kind of a circular formation, and then they were fighting against the ice troll. Now, hopefully, these elves are going to be more like, I don't know, more not as crap. Basically, they'll be more adept at fighting than in season 1, because in season 1 it was just they were all completely rubbish, and then Galadriel had to come and save the day and just basically take down the troll on her own. Hopefully, here there'll be a bit more of teamwork, and they'll be all at a similar level of skill. We do see one of these elves getting dragged away by a Barrow-wight at one point as well. So I'm wondering if he just gets dragged away and then he just like comes back 2 minutes later. He's like, all right, I'm fine. That was just a bit of drama for the camera. But I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if these what can the Barrow-wight? What can the Barrow? Yeah, I'm getting mixed up. What can the Barrow-wights actually really do against the elves? Like, I mean, how powerful are they? They don't seem to be that powerful from the books. I mean, they seem completely scary and powerful against the hobbits, but then again, I'm wondering if they actually have the power to take on these, like, you know, high elven warriors. But maybe they do. Maybe they could just kill them instantly like that.
Maybe they do. We don't know. With the hobbits, maybe they just got very lucky. There was, other
it's going to be interesting
to
see it play out on screen. I'll say that much, I suppose, because I've never really kind of debated or considered
their power.
Barrow-wights versus elves. Yeah, because obviously we see them, the only time we see them like completely dominating these hobbits, and then Tom Bombadil comes along and he just, like, again, they're no match for him. So I don't know where they land on the scale. All he has to do is sing a
song.
Yeah.
Obviously, the elves don't even know, like, we don't need to fight them.
But
just
the reason I was
sing a song.
Yeah, exactly. But also the reason I was kind of a bit skeptical as to whether or not they could just, drag an elf off and, do what they will with him. Is I know that people will think of the Barrow Wights and then they'll think of the Nazgul and they'll think, oh, these are two kind of similar beings where they're just kind of scary, ghoulish creatures. I'm pretty sure that we know that the Barrow Wights are nowhere near the level of power of the Nazgul. And I also consider that lots of high elven warriors would be able to go toe to toe with the Nazgul. So that was kind of my my thought process in this as well. So I don't know how, how true it would be that these are just these kind of weird ghost-like creatures that could just easily tackle an elf from behind, drag him off to their lair, and he's dead in 2 seconds. So we don't know what's going to happen, so we'll have to see it play out.
I think it's more of just the surprise and the frightening element rather than these are more powerful than elves.
Sure.
I think the elves just are probably like, what the hell is going on?
I'm excited for it. I am excited for it. Yeah.
It's looking cool, but I'll tell you what I'm more excited for was the next scene we see Kemen. Finally.
Oh, yeah.
Where's Kemen been?
We were talking about it in the last episode. We're like, where's Kemen? He's the main star of the show.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know the actor's name. I can't remember, but he talks about a looming feeling and how a shadow is growing ever greater and closer. Next,
I think he had more screen time in that behind the scenes trailer than he did in season 1.
After that, we get Jason Smith, who's a VFX supervisor, and he says that season 2 will show a lot more creatures, which is very evident from this trailer. This trailer was named something like Creatures of Rings of Power or something along those lines. And as we're going to get into it, there are a lot of creatures to discuss. So we've already kind of talked about the next bit, which is the much clearer look at the Barrow Wights. We get some stunt performers reenact the movements of the dead spirits. So that was pretty cool seeing them coming out and doing all this kind of Walking Dead motion, and then it kind of just blended into how it was
like a mix of Walking Dead and kind of Mad Max sort of, where what are those guys called that the bald
I don't know, what a day, what a beautiful day, that kind of guy.
What's his name? Hulse is what's that actor's name?
Oh, Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult, yeah. So him and those guys, they're all...
He played Tolkien.
He did play... Of course, yeah, he played Tolkien.
Yeah.
So, if people don't know what we're talking about in Mad Max, when Nicholas Hoult plays one of those guys that's one of the kind of minions, and he's... they're all bald, they all have some weird disease, and they're all very short-living, and they have to steal blood off other people in order to survive and all that. I don't know, it's really, really weird. But they have these weird movements, and they spray this silver thing on their faces, on their mouths and stuff, so they just look kind of creepy, and they move in a weird way as well. So it reminded me of a mix of them, and as you said, The Walking Dead was basically the movements of these actors that are playing the Barrow Wights. So creepy all around.
They look pretty cool. And another thing in this trailer that featured heavily that looks pretty cool as well is lots and lots of orc prosthetics. They must have shown us about 5, 6, 7 close-up orcs or actors playing orcs, and of course loads in the background as well. So what did you think about this? We've seen a lot in season 1, but I think they've upped the ante even more. Yeah,
and they mentioned that it's on a scale that we've never seen before, and I'm just really excited to see the variety of just... Because, obviously in any Lord of the Rings projects there's been loads of work on the orcs, and for example with the Uruk-hai that we get to see a lot in the Two Towers movie, we get to see there's a huge gang of them. We only get to see a few of them up close and personal, but hopefully in this we get loads more characters. And there's actually, we saw the guy in the trailer here that he showed up at San Diego Comic-Con as well. And he was... Did you see that on Twitter?
Robert Strangers, is that his name? Something like that?
I didn't see his name. I just saw a video of this. Was it Bear McCreary or someone introduced him on stage, and he came out. And he was on stage and he was singing Nampat or whatever. And then he was actually walking around and meeting people and taking photos of people. And he's... his prosthetics and his makeup are so class. He looks terrifying, and he's the one in this behind the scenes trailer that basically kind of has a bit of confrontation with Adar when Adar suggests to bring out to bring forth the new troll that they have on their team. Yeah, so that was cool as well. Yeah. But
that is cool.
But yeah, to answer
I didn't realize he was the same guy that was on stage as the actor in set. I just thought he was a random dude. But sorry. Continue.
No. I was just going to say, yeah, but I agree that that's one of the things that I'm definitely most excited for. I think in season 1, that was one of the best things, and that was one of the things that most people would have agreed was it just worked really, really well. The prosthetics, the orcs, the feel of them, the way they kind of just the feeling of the scariness that it gave you. It was like it was realistic, but it wasn't kind of too far fetched. So yeah, I just think that they've nailed that aspect of the show. And hopefully they just go from strength to strength. Hopefully that we get to see that in a lot more. Just more of it, please.
Yeah, and the variety is great. Like I love seeing all the different designs, the different colors.
Well, they're talking about it using like 3D printers, so obviously it's good. It's just
true.
It's becoming easier and easier to just kind of say, okay, let's just quickly mock up a new design and click print, and then that's another one there, and just do that like I don't know 500 times. You've got like 500 completely different,
tens of thousands.
Yeah. You know, never know. There could be tens of thousands. The one thing I was thinking about that, however, was 3D printers. Hopefully it's not, but like, oh, it's just becoming too easy, so we'll just click print and we'll just do that, whatever.
Yeah. I like people getting in with the brushes and
I like the labor of
the
love, where it's like, oh, it took me 5 hours to create each one of these things, and I did 10,000. It's like, oh my god, I didn't even know the maths on how many hours you spent of your life doing this, but it's probably 20 years. So hopefully, just if it becomes easier to print off these masks, that doesn't mean that they've overlooked any details. Hopefully there's still, and it doesn't look like it.
It's funny, I have the same thoughts as you the whole way. I'm like, really? I like the prosthetics, but like, yeah, the 3D printed.
Don't be making it too easy on yourselves now. Yeah.
Let's not get ChatGPT out and be like, design orc mask, then print.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I hope they're not doing like Mid-Journey. Get them to like just make some
AI art.
Make some AI designs of orcs' faces, and then they have another program taking that information, just 3D printing it. So there's no humans involved at all. They're just like, there's a computer just designing them and printing them, and then, yeah.
Well, again, comes back to why these behind-the-scenes videos are so good at giving us the confidence, because we can see people actually enjoying the work. But anyways, to move on, another thing that people loved from this trailer, and I saw it straight away afterwards on Twitter, Gil-galad fighting and Gil-galad in armour. So, Johnny, just straight away, what did you think? What do you think of seeing him get to fight? What do you think of them, I don't know, quote unquote, spoiling that he'll be in the battlefield? And also, what do you think of the look of his armour?
Well, just first of all, getting to see him having a costume change is just fantastic, I suppose. So
it's very true.
I was just kind of sick of just seeing him wearing the exact same thing all the time. I was like, even if he doesn't need to be wearing armor, he could just, have a change of clothes, because he's the High King. Surely he has a bigger wardrobe than just the same stuff all the time. So that was nice. Yeah, I'm trying to remember now. I know that there's a scene where he's talking off the so he's talking to the camera while he's on set, and he's wearing armor. Is there a scene that we get to see him actually fighting?
There's a scene
I remember it now,
towards the end of the trailer where he's practicing swinging his spear, and then we get to see him on set.
To it. Yeah. No, I remember that now, actually. I mean, we don't get to see much of that at all, so I didn't take it in too much. It definitely wasn't the thing that I focused on in this behind the scenes video. But yes, I mean, I knew that at some point we were going to get to see him with his spear and taking on orcs and fighting. So I was always excited for it, and he is a big towering presence as well, Benjamin Walker's. So hopefully he does really well in this as well, and he seems quite excited about it as well. And it's nice to see him talking about his character, and it was nice to see a lot of the guys just kind of being giddy and excited and almost like childlike. Isn't it Benjamin Walker that says, you dream as a child of fighting as orcs in the mud, and here we are doing it, kind of thing. It's kind of like, I was like, he dreamt the same things that I dreamt. That's class.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to mention that, how like his enthusiasm for it. He says these days on film, there's no question that you're in Lord of the Rings, even though, some people would absolutely question that. But you're right. He reminisces about like playing with swords in the mud and being the child fighting orcs, and now he gets to do it and get paid for it. So happy days to him. Now, I do want to say, like, a lot of people are oohing and awing over him, but I am hoping that there is something that they add in post somehow, because like I'm not massively loving the look of his armor. A lot of people are going like, oh, it looks great and whatever, but I don't know.
I haven't had a proper look at
armor, but like just there's something about it. It's too yellow. His armor isn't as cool as Elrond's, in my opinion, even though it is a similar or else it's the exact same breastplate. Yeah, I don't know what it is. He's wielding Aeglas, and obviously he's kind of just holding a stick in the behind the scenes, so they're going to add in the actual spearhead and maybe the other end of the spear. So I don't know what it is about it. Like, it's something a little bit too... Maybe it's just the colour scheme. Maybe they'll tone down the colours in post or something. But yeah, it was just a note that I had. But anyways, moving on, I suppose this whole thing is about the creatures, and we get a glimpse at perhaps another warg. I'm not sure, do you remember that from the trailers? Like a warg or maybe a wolf. Now this time it's much better that it was in complete darkness, because that was probably the jankiest thing in season 1, was that warg that came out with the googly eyes, and you know, we joked a lot about this. It was a weird look. It was strange, but like, that's, again, I'm not sure. Do you think it's a warg or just another wolf of some kind?
I think it's a warg, yeah. I think it is. I think it's the same thing, but as you said, it was in darkness. So, you know, if you're doing things that have a lot of CGI, if you're doing things with CGI, you need to be clever about it as well, and you don't want to be shining a spotlight on it and almost saying like, look at how brilliant we are at CGI. You want to be kind of keeping some of the mystery, and, you know, like, use the shadows, and almost like the way we saw Steven Spielberg shoot Jurassic Park 1, where
exactly,
lots, like, you know, it's just a big dummy machine head of a T-Rex, and the way they used it at nighttime and only half of the head's lit up, and it's just, that was terrifying. And it's like, what they had at their disposal back then was nothing compared to what we have now. But the techniques and just use your brain, basically. It's, you have to be
he used rain, he used flashing lightning strikes and darkness, and like all those things come together. It's just like, you're only seeing flashes. It's wet.
And not just relying only on saying, oh, I think our effects are so brilliant, we need to just have them front and center and have it completely perfectly lit. So yeah, use the darkness as well. And also, I think you want to see, exactly. I was born in the darkness. So yeah, hopefully they just, I mean, if they want to keep going with that design of a warg, which is, it seems like that's what they want to do. I mean, I said this before last season, I just don't like the look of the warg in general. It's not about the janky CGI. It's just, I think that the wargs, the images that we got of them now they're better than the Hobbit wargs, I will say, but the wargs from Lord of the Rings, I think, were much better. They just look kind of big wolf bears that were just, you know, I don't know, they just looked like they would maul you, and they weren't, you know, this kind of, I don't want them to look like they're just these evil creatures. I mean, I know that they are on team evil, but I don't want, I just want them to be under the control of the evil guys, and they're just these big, like, bears almost, that I don't need them to, like, just be like, we're a cruel evil wargs. It's just, no, you're just horrible creatures that are just wild and would just ravage anything, but you've been trained to kill the elves or whatever.
No, I would definitely agree with you there. Moving on, we get to see Theo and Arondir, and we get the clue that they will be heavily interacting with Ents and Entwives, maybe just Entwives, I don't know, they didn't specifically say, but it seems like Theon, I think I was trying to slow down this trailer and see, was it Theon that's going to get whacked by one of these Ents, which is kind of weird because, well, first of all, why, and how is he surviving that? Because he's a human boy.
I think, like, he's a little orc.
Yeah, but like, he gets walloped. And it's mentioned that they're 27 foot tall at least. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, whoever gets walloped is not surviving that, I don't think.
Maybe it's not Theo. I keep calling him Theon.
Theo Greyjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. We talked about the Ents already in the previous trailer breakdown, but I suppose the interesting thing is now we're seeing that it's Theo is going to interact a lot with these guys, but yeah,
and Arondir,
and Arondir,
which is to be expected, I suppose, because he's like a tree elf.
Or he's a tree fan,
a wood elf, I should say. He's a tree elf.
He is. I'd actually just like to say as well at this point of the podcast, guys, please leave a review on this podcast on either Apple Podcasts, or if you're listening on Spotify, leave a 5-star rating. It's really easy. It's on the the very top of the page. It literally doesn't take any time at all. I've done it like a million times. No, I'm messing. It can be done while you're listening, and it massively helps us out. I can see there we've just gone over 200 ratings, I think, on Spotify. So you need to pump up those numbers, guys. You know, you got to get at least like 5 a day.
Those are rookie numbers.
Those are rookie numbers. Moving on, back to the behind the scenes trailer. We get to see Lloyd Owen, who's got the coolest voice after Nelson Mandela. No, not Nelson Mandela. What's the guy's name?
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. Yes, and he says, "There's the scale of this production, and there's the scale of Tolkien's imagination." Now, I don't really know what that sentence means, but I just thought his voice was really cool. So we'll continue swiftly on.
You got lost but it was just nice to see Lloyd Owen and to hear him, because we didn't get any we didn't get any of him speaking in the trailer before. We got just one or two quick shots of him in Númenor. So nice to see him again behind the scenes, and he's still there. He's still kicking. And again, anybody who didn't get any speaking lines like Theo or Kevin or whoever in the trailer, they got to have a little chat in this as well. So it's like I think they did the same thing last year as well, 2 years ago when they were,
I think you're right,
preparing for the season. It was like, we didn't get to see any of that person speak, and then we got the behind the scenes one, and then we got to hear them talking about certain things. The same with like
Disa.
The same with Disa and Miriel as well.
Eregion gets to speak a little bit as well. But Númenor. But this actually brings us to Númenor and to something quite interesting, because this is something that we've seen in the previous two trailers and we've debated about. Especially the sea creature is what I'm going to talk about. But I have to admit, Johnny, I was a little bit disappointed at this part of the behind the scenes, because I felt like they were completely giving away everything behind this sequence. Like, we saw possibly Miriel or someone in the water, and we saw this giant sea creature, and we were like, are these scenes connected? What's going on? Who's that? Is this a dream sequence? And then like we just get the actress, what's her name, Emma Horvath, and she just says, quote, "The sea trial involves throwing someone into the sea and seeing if they survive with the sea worm." And I'm like, okay, well, now I don't need to see
mystery god
20 minutes of an episode that they're going to slowly do this sequence. So I think it's
and
cool.
Also we're going to be fairly sure of the outcome as well, so it's like,
yes, fairly sure. But why do you think this is happening, can I ask you?
Well, no, first of all, just to go into what you just said there, and I agree with you completely, and as I said to you, that's why I said this episode, it was a little bit too revealing at times, and this is the kind of thing that I was speaking about, because we also said in the last episode this could be a dream sequence, and we also said, I hate when you see a dream sequence in a trailer, because that kind of, not a dream sequence, but that's kind of what happened the last time when we saw like these different shots, and we're like, maybe that's the War of Wrath, and maybe it's whatever, and it was all just a prologue, and there were just these like flashing images, and we didn't get to see anything else really behind that. I would have been really pleasantly surprised if I saw this play out on screen and kind of go, it's not a dream sequence, this is actually happening, and to find out in that moment. I didn't need to hear that now. So I agree with you. That's, we've definitely, we haven't spoken about this before, but we definitely have the same opinions for a lot of these things. We've had the same thought processes as well. So that's good to know. We're still friends, and I agree with you on that. But so I don't really know what they gain from explaining the whole meaning of that scene. Like, there's
probably just to give her something to say. Maybe she could only speak in spoilers, and they're like, she's just there like, this person dies. No, Emma, can you tell us something mundane? Yeah, well, Númenor's going to sing. Emma, please, just tell us something about the scene. So,
I mean, I do like the idea of it. I do believe that, obviously, Númenor, there's going to be loads of things about that culture that we just never heard of, or that we'll have never seen, and it would be normal for just, untouched cultures to have their own little trials, and kind of reminds me of happening? If she weighs the same as a duck, therefore she is made of wood, and therefore a witch. So
very true. But like, I want to know, why is this happening to Miriel? What's she being tested? Why is her innocence being tested? What's she being accused of? Being blind?
Murdering her father? I don't know.
She was away.
No, I'm only joking. I don't know. I've no idea. Maybe they're just saying like it's your fault for taking us all to for taking us to Middle Earth and for causing us to have this this battle that was unnecessary and whatever. And you trusted in Elendil and in the elf, and I don't know. I've no idea. Basically, to see, is she fit to run as president?
Is she fit to be president? Yeah. There's a Kamala Harris little reference going on here, or a Biden probably reference. Yeah. Anyways, it's actually Tristan Gravel who says, if they survive, they're innocent, in his beautiful Welsh accent. This is the actor that plays Pharazôn. Now, Johnny, this would be, I don't expect you to have spotted anything interesting, but did you spot anything very, very interesting about this particular scene that they show him? He's not in a scene, he's just talking to the camera. Did you spot anything interesting at all?
No, I'm just kind of rewatching it here as I speak to you now. I'm looking at that still image. Is it to do with the person that he's with?
It is not. What about his title?
Oh, I did not see that. So it's his title is R. Pharazôn, which is
exactly
not L. Pharazôn, but R. Pharazôn, I suppose. So that means, well, do you want to say what that means, or should we again?
Keep that under wraps? Well, okay, no, I'll say what it is, but I'm not going to say what's going on around it, because first of all, I want to thank Harry from Fellowship of Fans, or whoever was adminning on the Twitter page, that they pointed this out. They pointed out R. Pharazôn. Now, R in Númenorian, or whatever, is the prefix meaning for high lord, king, something like that. And just so everyone knows, this title wasn't with Pharazôn in season 1. So if you go and check the IMDb page, which I did before preparing for this podcast, he is down as just Pharazôn. So this is the first time that we're seeing our Pharazôn. So yeah, read into that what you will, but I just thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, there could be like an uprising, or almost, I don't know, a mutiny or something, and Pharazôn now has his gang of followers and his loyal followers that all believe that he should be sitting in the White House, and then basically, so maybe he's usurped the throne. I don't know, and this is a trial for Muriel to see if she should be coming back. I don't know. We're going to have to see what happens, because again, we know some details from the books, but this is all just a blank canvas that they're kind of just doing whatever they want on it. So it will be, hopefully, the fact that they've given away that big kind of, not spoiler, but like they've kind of spoiled big that scene. Drop. Hopefully that means that they're confident that they have enough other exciting details that they're not giving, so that it's like, there's actually a lot more to it and a lot more interesting things that are going to happen as well. So that's my only thing that my hope that I'm clinging on to.
I was going to say that at the beginning of this, when you were saying maybe they're revealing too much. I was saying maybe Dave, that just bodes well.
We're in sync today.
That's right. Justin Timberlake and all that.
And we're in the sync.
I just think it bodes well for, maybe there's so much to show that this is nothing. Like, you're getting a little, not even the tip of the iceberg. You're getting a speck on an atom of the tip of the iceberg. Do you know? Anyways, we see we see Maxim Baldry, who plays Isildur, and he mentions he's having a holiday whilst on set with probably my favourite creature design in this whole trailer, which is the spiders. We see a mini Shelob, which was confirmed in the last trailer, and this actually is a young Shelob, and what I think is a different, much bigger spider and all of its offspring. So I don't know, do you have any thoughts on this? Like, we see him kind of battling I'd say a mediocre sized spider, and I think that's the one that's Shelob, and then there looks like there's a huge spider with loads of like mini ones. There's similarities to the Return of the King game, do you know? Do you know when you're playing that level, there's like loads of like medium spiders, then there's the like tiny little ones that you can't step on, you have to like throw fire down and move around.
I was getting Mandalorian vibes of this Do you remember when they go to the ice planet?
The ice planet,
yeah. And there's like they're transporting. It's one of those typical Mandalorian side quests when they're transporting some frog woman with her eggs to some other planet. It's like, my husband is on that planet over there. I have a bag of eggs. I need to get there safely. It's like,
oh no, what? Baby Yoda's eating the eggs.
Yeah, lol. So, but anyway, if anybody hasn't seen that, they crash down to some ice planet and there's like just spiders. There's about 1 billion spiders everywhere, and there's like loads of different sizes, little mini ones, larger ones that are the size of like a basketball, and then there's just these enormous size of like a monster truck spiders. Just like, it's absolutely horrifying and terrifying and really gross all at the same time. But so I was getting those kind of vibes off this when you see that giant spider kind of creeping. And again, what we said before, use the darkness, use shadows, use just things blocking. So this spider is just starting to creep out from behind this I don't know, something inside in the caves. We can't get a proper look at it, but we do get to see the mass of the size of the body. You're like, oh god, that's a huge thing. I wonder on Goliant. I mean,
I thought of that as well. But
it's too much. It's too much.
That would be
name
annoying.
dropping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
but
she comes in and
Ungoliant...
introduces herself. Hi, I am Ungoliant. This is my daughter Shelob.
Yeah, well, I just imagine Ungoliant to be huge, like covering a whole
size
city
of buildings.
almost.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I hope that's not where it's going, because they've already done the Shelob thing. I can get behind that. It's good. I just like the loads of mini spiders and big spiders, because for me it's canon, because I played that Return of the King game, and I kind of realized later that in the Lord of the Rings movie there's only just Shelob, but like in the game there's billions of spiders, and I love that. So
Shelob.
They lob. So yeah, spiders everywhere, as quoted in this trailer. Next,
they love and Ray love.
Next, we get to see Arondir trying to save Isildur from quicksand, or like sinking mud.
What the hell was that?
It was really reminding me of, do you know, the boy and his horse in the Neverending Story, where the horse is like neighing and he's trying to rescue him. But anyways, they both get sucked, or they both get like sag, or you know what I'm trying to say. Don't make it weird. It's weird now, isn't it? So anyways, they both get
sucked in.
They get sucked in. They both get sucked in front of Estrid, who's played by Nia Towel. They both get sucked in front of her.
Sister of Elbow Towel.
So Nia Towel, who's playing Estrid, and she's we actually haven't really got the chance to react to this new character on the podcast yet. She is playing Isildur's love interest. So any thoughts on that?
I mean, there's not that women crawling around Mordor at this time, I suppose. So Isildur's just like, you'll have to do.
Best pick of a bad bunch.
It's either her or Shelob. So I haven't even put any second of consideration into this character or not. I haven't really even. I just completely overlooked that character. So
I suppose it was announced ages ago. It was announced like 2 months ago, and again
back then. Anywhere. I'm only just starting to get into like Rings of Power hype in the last like week or so, because obviously we knew that trailer was dropping on Friday, so I was kind of getting a bit excited before that. Then I saw it, was excited, and now it's just like every day there's new stuff coming out. So I'm proper on board the train now, but I suppose a couple of months ago I was just like, some images, who cares, that's miles away. And I was dealing with other stuff. I was like, look, I'll come to that in good time, and then I'd kind of forgotten about it. So kind of forgot about her altogether. So sorry about that. I'm sure she'll be lovely and great, and
I'm sure she will. I'm sure she won't be playing the biggest of part in this season for now. I just want to say as well, another eagle-eyed viewer managed to see that she was chained for some reason in this scene. So I don't know why. It's kind of like she's Arondir and Isildur's prisoner at first. Maybe she's like one of the wild men of Mordor. Well,
maybe Isildur's into that kind of thing.
He could be into all that.
Whips
like
and chains,
BDSM.
maybe like Rihanna.
Yeah. That could be it, yeah. S&M and all that jazz. But also we see her gazing up at this giant worm creature that seems to come from Isildur and Arondir's hole in the mud.
You're saying there's a mud monster coming out of Isildur and Arondir's hole, right?
As in like the hole that they've created. So yeah, what do you think? What the hell is this worm?
I didn't even know it was the worm. I just saw some sort of a crazy mud monster. I was like, what is happening?
Well,
What's going on here?
A mud monster worm.
Yeah.
It is the trailer of creatures.
These types of things where it's not like something that's actually massively lore at all, and I'm not like, oh, that's whatever from the books. I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. I'll see that play out on screen, and I don't spend too much time.
Like the sea monsters as well, from both.
Same as the sea monster, exactly.
2.
And we kind of, exactly. I'm just like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's just another thing that exists. Obviously, this is more difficult to say, oh, that's a cool thing that exists, because we didn't get to see it at all. It just looked like the mud was alive, and I was like, what the hell is going on there? And I was like, oh, we'll get to see more in good time. So
that's very true.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have too many thoughts. It looks like it could be a big tentacle. It kind of reminds me also of the Watch in the Water, when he's got the big tentacles that come up and they grab Frodo outside the Mines of Moria. But don't have too much more to say about that. I did think it looked cool when I think quicksand is something that's just It's an idea and a concept that terrifies me. Just getting sucked into a big pool of quicksand and just being like slowly going down and down and down and be like, oh my god, I can't. And if you try to move and save yourself, it's like, oh, that makes it worse. That makes it worse. It's like, oh yeah, catch 22.
You gotta stay still.
Yeah, you gotta stay still and just wait for a slow death. It's like the fact that exists in real life is terrifying. I lie awake at night thinking about that.
Again, this is another thing as well that I thought at the time. I was like, oh, it's cool. We're getting to see Isildur trapped in the quicksand. But then they literally, in like a 1 second shot, they show him sinking and Arondir sinking. I'm like, they could have done without that.
Yeah. You know? No, again, yeah, you're 100% right. They didn't need to show that. They could have just showed him in the quicksand kind of slowly sinking and then just cut away from it. And maybe if they later wanted to show some like mud monster come up, most people would put 2 and 2 together and be like, okay, that's the same scene. But we wouldn't have got to see it play out. And or
it's just don't show him sinking at all. Just show the monster. And then we would have been like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I just know there's a crazy monster.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that again. And yeah, over revealing is, as I put it at the beginning. And yeah, I need a bit more class and a bit more, I like to see my trailers covered up.
So anyways, we already touched on this as well, where Barry Gower is the prosthetic designer, and he said, we are creating an army of orcs for the end of the season where we have this huge battle. So the interesting thing to take from that is the Battle of Eregion will probably be the final episode, or the final 2 episodes or so. And we also mentioned like the 3D printing prosthetics and stuff, but that's pretty interesting. We get to see a lot of the practical effects from this battle, and some of the shots, they look incredible. But what do you think about that? That's another big bomb. I suppose a lot of people might have already presumed that the battle will be at the end.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I'm glad to hear that we're not going to go in and have episode 2 be like, okay, they're going to be, sacking Eregion already, and it just be moving way too fast.
That's true.
I suppose it makes sense that part of the story is going to come at that time. We also heard a small bit from Charles Edwards in this as well, where he kind of says, look, I know where this is going, and he kind of says, like, I don't want to ruin it for people that don't know, but his character of Celebrimbor will have a good time at the end of that battle, I'm sure. So it'll definitely be if you're an actor and you're like, okay, you have to play Celebrimbor, and we're not going to say exactly what happens in case people don't know, but it will be definitely something that as an actor, I'm sure you're like, oh, that's going to be class to be able to like, do this and like act this out on screen. So definitely looking forward to that. That will be exciting, and I'm looking forward to that battle as well. I think there's been loads of cool shots that we got a while back. Then in the most recent trailer, there was a couple of scenes from where they were charging the orcs specifically, and they were running all over the place. And I was like, okay, it looks all right. It doesn't look amazing. But I think in this as well, we got 1 or 2 small similar shots, and they kind of, again, restored my confidence, which is what my biggest takeaway would be from this behind the scenes thing. Just the restoration of confidence in the fact that these people are putting everything into this. It's a huge production, and they're really, really, it looks like they're working their asses off in trying to bring, a really entertaining product to us.
I agree. I think it looks great. And then the interesting ending of this whole trailer, it shows Adar talking to, by the way, I think he sounds great, the new version of Adar, the new actor. But he's talking to his orcs and he says, "Send him in." And then we hear, "Lord Father, he will kill our own kind." And he says, "Send him in." And of course, this is the huge damrod, which is the hill troll stomping in. Now, just on this, I don't know. I think the orcs from Rings of Power are very different to the way the orcs are in Peter Jackson's. But it's not the reason that you might think that I'm saying this. I just don't know if I love how the orcs are so like, they're so super caring and empathetic about each other. I just couldn't imagine an orc captain or a general responding so emotionally in Peter Jackson's movies, being like, "Oh no, like, you know, this big monster could harm some of our own kind." What are your thoughts on it? Like, I think it could be cool. And I think they're way more together and way more like family. And Adar means father, so like I understand.
Yeah,
that.
It's a good point.
Maybe
I was just reading The Return of the King the other day, and I was reading a chapter from where basically Frodo and Sam have just been through Cirith They're making their way through the plains of Gorgoroth, and they are basically just at every moment they're terrified about coming around a corner and bumping into some orcs. And there's one scene where there's these two orcs out, and they're trying to find them because they'd seen them at one point. They get away. There's this kind of scurry. They escape. There's these two orcs out, and they're looking for them. One of them's what you call it? Like he's a sniffler, I think is what they're called. But basically he can pick up the scent better than the other one. So, and then the other one's much taller, more of like a warrior or something. And it's like these two guys are together. They're from different factions of orcs. They're different, almost breeds of orcs. And they're just arguing with each other the whole time. And Sam and Frodo can hear them, and they can kind of spy them in the distance. And these guys are just going at it. And one of them ends up killing the other one just over like a stupid argument. And Sam makes the point and says something like, "Oh, don't worry. If they saw us, they would have dropped their quarrel, and they wouldn't have fought amongst themselves again until we were both dead, and then they would have resumed arguing amongst themselves again." So it's like orcs are just, it's in their blood to just like fight and kill all the time. And I agree with you. My point is that they don't care about anything. They don't care about each other. The only thing that they care about is like the fear of, obviously they have all they have is hatred. And then they have greater hatred and lesser hatred. The hatred they have for each other is lesser than the hatred they would have had for hobbits or for whatever. Or if they're told by their Lord Commander or Master, you need to find this person and kill them, or just it's a man or an elf, that's where they have their main hatred. But the hatred they have for each other still exists, it seems. And, maybe they can get along at times and they could just be in little groups. I
suppose
and
people
kind of
bond over hatred more than love. Isn't that right?
Well, that can be true, but
mutual
I'm thinking,
hate.
Yeah, but they've mutual hate
I know
for each other, which is the weird thing. I think the only time that they're going to be good and kind to each other is not. I wouldn't say it's good or kind. I would say it's just that they're not trying to kill each other. That's just out of their own
respect,
personal, not just respect. I would say, but I was going to say it's like they're looking out for themselves as well. They're like, I know that if I don't kill this person. We can fight, we can like become a group together, and that way we can attack and we'll be victorious. It's a selfish inward way of looking at something as well. It's not like, oh, well, I'm going to be kind to that person because he's my brother and my brother in arms, or my, my fellow.
No, I agree.
So I hadn't really considered that before, but again, once you've said that, I 100% agree with you, and I think that's very good. I would also like to note, I don't share your same optimism about this new actor playing Adar. Well, not that the actor is going to be any. I just don't like the look of him. I just think you said, I could barely tell. I think he looks way worse than what's your man's name? Joseph Mulway or
Maul. Joseph Maul.
Joseph Maul. I loved his look. He looked a lot more. He looked older, first of all, than this actor. This actor looks younger. So he looked older. He looked more like beaten down. He looked more. I don't know. Just something about this actor that just he looks
more Maul.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it yet. And again, I haven't seen enough of this new guy to be able to make that proper judgment. But just off the initial images that came out, I was like, don't love it. And now that we've seen him just a couple of times in one or two shots, again, it hasn't. That's one thing that has not restored my confidence. But Yeah,
So
we'll see.
You can't,
We'll see.
You can't
Time will
do
tell.
you can't do anything about that. Like, that's so unfortunate that Joseph left the cast. Now,
It is unfortunate, yeah.
I said that I couldn't tell the difference when we got the very first image, and it might have been like a side profile in the shadow or something. I was like, oh, it's the same guy, because once you slap on all those prosthetics and makeup, it doesn't really affect anything. But I can definitely see the difference. But at the same time, it doesn't really. I actually haven't thought about it once. I've just kind of accepted it, and I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I did love Adar in season 1, but
I don't know what it is, but there's been a couple of times I've seen him, and it looks like he's almost like trying to hold back a smile. This new guy, and
I know what you mean.
Joseph Maul. Yeah, it's like he's
kid.
got a little bit of a grin. Yeah, exactly. It gives off these kind of childish vibes almost. Whereas Adar in the first one, he was just this like somber. Like even the comment that the orc said to him, they're like, "But that will," he like just like kind of basically almost slightly disagreeing and saying, "No, I don't think we should do that." It's like in season 1, we got to see a scene of him just with one orc saying, "Stick out your arm," and he just burns his arm in the sunlight, and the orc is just like doing anything because it's like the love and respect for his father, but also the fear. It seemed like he had fear drilled into these orcs of him, and how he would just like be completely cruel, and he wouldn't think for a second about, killing one of them or destroying them, or basically making an example, I suppose, out of one of these orcs if he needed to put them in their place or something like that. But we're going to see. Hopefully, this new actor will be able to bring that same level to the screen as we saw in season 1 of Adar. But because he was just definitely one of the standout performers in season 1, I think I never heard anyone. Of all the negative hatred that we heard about season 1, I didn't see nearly anybody complaining about his performance, because I thought he was really, really fantastic. So it is a big shame that he's not going to be around. But look, we're going to, hopefully it'll be barely noticeable as we get to see it on the screens.
And it's even more impressive as well because he is one of the added characters. Like, he's completely made up and added in. So it's amazing.
He is Adar.
He is Adar, and it's great that a lot of people come to the same conclusion that he was one of the best parts of the Rings of Power. But this trailer finishes with a really cool shot of the damrod, the hill troll, basically crushing an elf into the mud, just like we mentioned earlier. We were talking about Jurassic Park, and it just reminds me of the T-Rex stomping on one of the guys. I think it's in Jurassic Park 2. And he stomps on a guy like right into the mud and like practically suffocates him. And then we get to see him kind of humorously whacking an orc away with his hammer. So
I loved that for the trailer, but again, it seemed a little bit kind of just gimmicky of him just picking up an orc and like smacking him with his hammer. It's a little bit gimmicky, but I mean, for the purpose of the trailer, I was like, bit whimsical. It did seem it was quite fitting for the trailer, because just as he whacked him, it made this big like sound of like the thud of the Rings of Power coming in. I think it was like boom. So I was like, it's kind of funny. But anyway, I wouldn't get too hung up on that. It did look, and again, as we said before, just have the CGI guys in darkness with rain and fire, so there's different weird lightings. I think that's going to be way better for than any sort of just VFX in broad daylight. It's always going to look
absolutely.
So definitely looking forward to seeing that. But that whole battle sequence, it looks class.
Yeah, no, it does. It looks really good, and it looks like it's going to be big, grand, and epic. Now, before I ask you your opinions on the trailer and stuff, I think we'll just move on to the second video that was released by Amazon today. It was another behind-the-scenes featurette, and it was called Forging of the Rings. And oh boy, this was cool. Like, at the start, the way it started was Celebrimbor sitting there. Music was intense, and he just says, "Please tell me, the rings, did they work?" And then we get to see Halbrand, which I thought was interesting first. And he said, they worked wonders. So, Johnny, what do you think from the scene? I didn't even want to think about it too much. I just put it down. I was like, I'll ask Johnny, see what he thinks. Like, is this a flashback before the reveal of Halbrand in season 1? Or is this, do you think Celebrimbor might be having some sort of vision? I don't know. I haven't even thought about it.
He's wearing his season 2 colours, Celebrimbor. So
is he wearing red?
He's wearing red, yeah. So season 2 close. So maybe it's not a flashback to season 1. No, I don't know. I immediately didn't think that it was going to be a flashback to season 1. I thought, well, I didn't know what to think really. I was kind of the same as you. I didn't really, again, I only saw this maybe once earlier today, and then I just watched it quickly again there a little while ago. But
he could be going mad.
It's very strange, the fact that he is looking at Halbrand. The only thing that I did kind of contemplate would be maybe the fact that Halbrand still... I was thinking maybe he's shape-shifting his outward appearance so that we could see him as Halbrand. But if you look through Celebrimbor's eyes, he might see that like long blonde hair Anatar figure. So that's one way that they could be going, that he's kind of like... Maybe like his original appearance.
But why would he be
Halbrand.
asking him about the rings? Do you know? He's asking about these. I assume he's asking. Well, we don't know, but I assume he's asking about.
I don't know, but
it's a weird one.
Like, I mean, Celebrimbor can't be that thick that he's got like, because he's also been like,
no,
I've had a visitor or whatever. So like, we know that he's going to have scenes with Anatar, which is who Halbrand is going to turn into. And then we're seeing him here having this deep conversation with Halbrand, still in Halbrand form. I can't see where they're going with this, really. I don't know how this is, because surely Celebrimbor will be like, right, well, you're an interesting character who's talking about how we should develop these rings. And then suddenly there's going to be another guy showing up, being like, oh, you can call me the giver of gifts or something, and I'm going to gift you these rings. And it's like, wait, and you also look exactly like the twin brother of this other guy that I just met the other day. It's like, it can't be too coincidental. So I don't know. No. It's going to be, again, hopefully they don't make a complete balls of it, because when I'm looking at it, I'm kind of going, I can't see a way out of this. It looks like they've just kind of dug themselves into a hole, and now they're like, okay, how the hell are we going to get this whole Halbrand guy out of here? Because the whole mystery box thing was, it didn't really have a massive payoff, but now we're just locked into the character.
I think the way Celebrimbor starts off by saying, please tell me, the rings, did they work? He looks like he's in a distressed state. He looks like maybe literally seconds before in that same scene, he's working really hard. He's like, I don't know, breaking his back, doing something, and it looks like he's about to crack. And maybe he just needs some self-reassurance, and he sits down and he's almost like imagining Halbrand, maybe listening to what the words he told him before they found out he was Sauron.
Well,
and he's just like, dude, they work. And he's like, yes, they worked wonders. And he's just like, and he giggles to himself, Celebrimbor.
Yeah, it's like the look of relief on his face.
Yeah, it's kind of, I feel like he could be kind of going insane.
Also, I'm just, what I picked up on initially, the very first thing I picked up on was the use of the past tense. Like did they work? And he says they worked. What to say? They worked wonderfully, or they worked wonders. They worked wonders. It was he said. But he spoke about it was all in the past. They worked wonders, and it's not like do they work? As in we've just created them. Like, are they currently working? He said, did they? And yes, they did. They worked in the past. I'm just like, what? Where could we be? Like, what time period could we be in?
Maybe he's dead. And he's talking about this years in the future. And he's talking to, I don't know. It's an interesting one, but I'm gonna need to speak to the audience on this one and ask a friend, call a friend, guys. 50-50. What do you think? What do you think, guys? What is going on in this scene here?
You did call a friend. You called me, and I couldn't help you.
You're a useless friend.
I'm sorry. I did enjoy just a few seconds that we got, though, of that clip of Charles Edwards' performance, because, again, he's a fantastic actor, and just he could convey, just with these little small gestures in his face, those emotions that you just spoke about there. It looked like you said that it looked like he was feeling this one thing, and then I said, yeah, but then also he, as soon as Halbrand or Anatar or whoever says to him, yes, they worked perfectly well, they did exactly what was said on the tin. There's this sense of relief, this sense of like just taking a weight off his shoulders, like, oh, thank God for that, because I mean, it would have been a complete disaster if that hadn't worked out. So he just conveyed all that with like one little, like, I don't know, twist of an eye muscle or something. I was like, oh wow, I got a lot from that. So yeah, fantastic actor, and again, just looking forward to seeing more of him on screen because he's a huge asset, I think, to this whole Rings of Power project.
Absolutely, and it was a great start to the little trailer, but an even better like second part of the trailer. Now I'm going to paraphrase massively, but we get to see John Howe, the legendary actor who's done loads of work with Peter Jackson. Artist. The legendary artist who's done loads of work with Peter Jackson on the first 6 Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies, and he basically said, in a nutshell, there's a very famous ring in the Germanic and Norse mythology, Ring of Invisibility, used for covetous purposes. The prime source of Tolkien's inspiration for the rings. The ring is a miniature metaphor for the earth. It's round, circular. It has no beginning or end, and it encompasses everything, including power. And it seems that it was a logical extension of all this lore that Tolkien loved so deeply. And the whole time he's explaining this, he's showing us some of the Dwarven rings and the detail he's putting into the etches that he's putting into the sides of the rings. And I don't know.
I'm just looking at one of the designs here now. He's drawing freehand with pencil, and he's drawing he's drawing some man or dwarf's face carved into the side of a ring. Did you see that?
No, I don't. Can't really see, but I'd seen this ring design before. Yeah, I can see that now, actually. I'd seen this ring design before, maybe just like in a picture, and I was like, oh yeah, it's okay. But just seeing him putting in the detail, I was like, wow, I actually really like the designs of these Rings of Power.
John Howe. I never heard him talk so much as well on the matter met him. And he just but I'm saying I never heard him talk in detail on like maybe concepts of Tolkien and like how the ring could represent this, and just I think he just spoke very eloquently, and just he really seemed to convey across like he had an idea of maybe what Tolkien was considering, what the idea of the ring and why this circular shape was such an important and why it was such an important concept, and how that would emanate whatever it was he said. I don't want to say the wrong thing.
It encompasses everything, including power, and it seems that it was a logical extension of all his lore that Tolkien loved so deeply. So he's talking about the ring is a miniature metaphor for the earth. It's round, circular. It has no beginning or end. Yeah,
so. I don't know. Just from those few lines, it just made me feel like I know that he obviously likes Lord of the Rings. But really? You know, that's his lifelong work. But it just seems like he's a man who just knows Tolkien's heart.
Yeah, and he was great to speak to. Like we talked to him a couple of years ago when we were at the premiere, and do you remember he was talking about how him and Peter Jackson were coming up with the concept of Balrog's wings. And it was a whole discussion and debate, and just the way he was talking about it was so cool, so eloquent, and I really liked how they added him into this teaser, or this little behind-the-scenes featurette. So, anyways, we've also mentioned a good bit about Charles Edwards, who plays Celebrimbor, and we get to see the actor actually crafting rings, which I thought was, again, such a cool touch. Yeah, they really knew what they were doing with this trailer, like playing up to the nerds. And there's a really cool moment when he's asked by the smith if he's left or right-handed, and he correctly points out that all elves are ambidextrous. So that was cool. And he gives a little nod,
smirk to the camera.
Yeah. So
he's like, I actually nailed that one there.
Yeah. We get a lot more shots of the rings, Galadriel. We get Charlie Vickers and Robert Aramayo talking about the rings, yada yada. It's all very cool, very great stuff. Then we get Disa and Durin, and they've received an invitation from, and Durin pronounces it, Lord Celebrimbor. It's a beautiful elven script, possibly Tengwar. I'm not sure, but I just wanted to point out here as well that an account on Twitter called The Hall of Lore has actually translated it, and I've retweeted it as well for anyone to see there. But just to give you a quick read, because it's only short from what we can see, it says this is addressed to Durin the Fourth, which again I actually thought was quite interesting that it wasn't addressed to his father. So we can come back in that now in a second. But it says, Durin the Fourth, I humbly request your attendance in Eregion, that I might present a new offer for the dwarves of Khazad-dûm. Despite your recent misfortunes, I believe your ears are best suited to listen to this proposition. My people are in your debt, and that's where it cuts off, because that's all we can see. But a couple of things to note about that is, he says your recent misfortunes. Is he talking about the Balrog destroying...
The death of his father?
The death of his father.
Possibly.
That's the thing. Why is it addressed to... Well, actually, no, it couldn't be, because we do see his father wield a ring of power.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so what are the recent misfortunes? Why is it addressed to Durin the Fourth?
Maybe he failed an exam.
Possibly he didn't get his driving... He didn't pass the driving test.
Yeah, he didn't get his work permit to mine mithril.
Yeah, so I just thought that was interesting. Like, I don't think the writers of Rings of Power are stupid enough to just be like, well, he's the dwarf that we know the most about, and he's the one that's on screen the most, so he should get the invitation. And I don't think that's it. I think, as we saw from the actual trailer, there's discourse between Durin the Third, Durin the Fourth. So perhaps Durin the Third is kind of going a little crazy and senile, and the other peoples of Middle Earth are kind of backing Durin the Fourth, and that's why he's getting the invitation.
Maybe the other possibility would be that Elrond has said to Celebrimbor, "Oh, you should send this to my buddy, my friend over there, because that'll give us a nice in." With
yeah,
dwarves.
You're right. That's exactly,
because obviously
what it is.
Elrond would vouch for Durin the Fourth, and Durin the Fourth also would be maybe more likely to accept this kind of an invitation. His father's a bit more, maybe old-fashioned and standoffish, and not as trusting of other people, maybe. So that's one possibility. And I was going to say he's met Celebrimbor, but I don't think he has. Celebrimbor walked with Elrond all the way up to Khazad-dûm in season 1, but then he was swiftly sent packing back to Eriador. So
probably took
I don't
him
think
10 minutes.
they were never actually formally introduced. So I don't know. Again, we will see soon. But yeah, I think my first initial thought when you said your recent what do you say, your recent not tragedy,
your recent misfortunes.
Recent misfortunes. Firstly, I was thinking, oh, well, maybe the reason it's going to him is because he is now the leader because his father's passed away. That would make sense. But yeah, you're right. This is obviously before they've been given the rings, and we do see Durin the Third with a ring, so that doesn't make sense. That doesn't line up. But recent misfortune, maybe again, Elrond has just been kind of keeping Celebrimbor filled in. He said, oh yeah, actually, they had some problems with the mines. They're not being allowed to mine anymore for mithril.
Could be straight after season 1. Could be. Yeah. We do see Durin the Third say 7 rings and bound within each power as he slaps away a dwarvish hand that reaches for it, which I thought was kind of cool. And kind of in the same scene-ish, we see Anatar, Celebrimbor, and Durin the Fourth all in the same room together. So perhaps, I don't know what to think of this, like perhaps Anatar actually invites all the dwarf lords to a dinner and gives out the 7 rings there. So if that's the case, I would hope to see a lot more dwarven houses, which would be cool, because we've only seen the one. We've seen Durin's folk. But
it also seems like they're getting invited to a forge, because there's some part where we see Anatar with Durin behind him, and there's like they're smelting, and it's like, okay, so are they being invited to watch the process of the creation of the rings, or what's going on? Or maybe maybe he's like, oh, all of the concoction has been mixed together perfectly, so all we need to do is just pour this liquid lava down into the thing, and it'll form and create the ring, and it's ready to go in 10 minutes. Pop it out of the oven and put it on your finger. I don't think that would make sense, but
I bet you're right. I bet that's what it is. I bet he wants to actually, Anatar, instead of just giving the gifts of the rings, even though he's already said he's the giver of gifts in the trailer, I think he's actually going to go to these places and pretend to teach them this new power, but actually just give them 7 rings of power that he's corrupted.
Yeah.
Kind of like, here's something I prepared earlier, but you're going to like, finalize it now. Yeah, I think that would make sense. I think that is what the trailer is kind of showing us. But anyways, we get to see Charlie Vickers, who plays Anatar and Halbrand. He says that ultimately the rings start to work on the subconscious, ultimately for evil rather than good. So well done, Captain Obvious there. And then you said it when we were talking about the previous trailer, but it's actually in this one where Charles Edwards says, kind of in a coy way, like, I know where it's going and I don't want to ruin it. So spoiler alert, big things are potentially going to happen to his character this season. And like you said, it's probably going to be pretty cool for him to act it all out, because you can even see from this featurette they showed a lot of Charles Edwards, and he is the creator of rings, or he's one of the best smiths of his ever, and he's going to shine this season. You can just tell, like, he looks class in this featurette. But
he's going to be an important boy in season 2.
He certainly is. The trailer pretty much finishes. We get to see cool images, including Galadriel she's firing arrows of flames at orcs, and again you can see that it's done practically, which I've already mentioned we absolutely love on this podcast. So that's all the main points, really. That's pretty much all we have on those 2 videos, and all the other images as well that we mentioned, Kieran Hinds. So yeah, Johnny, did you, in comparison to the actual trailer that they released in San Diego Comic-Con, did you prefer these sneak peeks, or like you said earlier, like a courtesan at a brothel, did they reveal too much?
Yes and no. I think that there were things that were revealed that, as we just already pointed out, that were maybe unnecessary, that I don't think I'm left more satisfied having seen, for example, that little clip of them explaining why Muriel is jumping in the water with that sea monster. I didn't maybe need it to be explained to me in this moment, but I don't see what that has added to me as someone that has not piqued my interest more. My interest had already been piqued just seeing the image of that shot of her underwater with this giant monster coming in, and I was quite curious to see if that was going to play out to be a real scene, or if it was going to be a vision. And if it had been a vision or a dream sequence, I would have been angrily responding in the next episode of our reactions, been like, I can't believe blah blah blah. Or the opposite would have been, oh, that's great. I was worried about this, and it's turned out not to be what I had feared. So it has turned out not to be what I'd feared, but they've just kind of jumped the gun and they've told us that 2 months too soon. So that's
agree.
A little bit annoying. But apart from that, and maybe there's 1 or 2 other things similar to that, like we spoke about maybe with the weird mud monster thing. Mostly, I'm very positive about it. As we also said, one of the most important takeaways from both these 2 little behind-the-scenes snippets is showing the love and care and detail that's going into this, showing the actors really, really getting involved. As you said there, Charles Edwards playing Celebrimbor, actually going and making rings himself, being shown the process. Cool. That's so cool. Just feeling the character himself being like, well, obviously I'm right-handed, but elves are ambidextrous, because, like, of course, like, everyone knows that. Really, really cool. I like to see those kind of comments. I like to see the actor Benjamin Walker playing Gil-galad talking about, like, kind of his childish wonder side to him, talking about, when you're a child and you're imagining fighting orcs in the mud. I'm kind of going, oh yeah, I can relate to that. So lots of positives really, and hopefully it's as good as we're expecting.
Absolutely. I agree with you on everything there. I do think that the second featurette thing was probably my favorite. Like, loved the trailer, loved the behind the scenes that came out yesterday, but today's one, I just thought there was something so captivating about that opening scene. Then obviously John Howe, perfection. And then we just basically get to what it's all about, the rings, like the politics about the rings, how they're going to give them out. Is he going to make them in front of the dwarves? Is he going to gift them to him? How does he invite them? Does he go there? Do they come to him? Like, all this stuff is way more interesting.
Logistics.
Well, just all that kind of stuff. Just answering those kind of questions, or you and I discussing that kind of stuff.
No, I think that's very interesting.
Way more intriguing than, like, does Arondir and Isildur sink in a black hole, or what does this worm creature to Isildur's love interest? Like, I don't care about any of that. I'm mostly interested in that worm creature because I like new creatures being added to the lore, especially because that's possible. But yeah, it's the rings. The rings are the things that excite me the most, and this TV show is the Rings of Power. So you can't give me
If they get one thing right, they better get the Rings of Power right.
Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, that concludes this episode. So are you pumped for season 2? What were your thoughts on these 2 featurettes and the picture of Kieran Hinds and all that? Yeah, let me know what you guys thought, and if we missed anything at all, please get in contact with us. We're at melon_heads on Twitter, melonheads official on Instagram, and of course that is melon with 2 L's. So yeah, and please, like I said earlier, the best way to support this podcast is to leave those reviews on Apple Podcasts or whatever your choice of podcast is, as long as they can give you the option to leave a review. And if you're listening on Spotify, just give us a 5-star rating. It's the best way for us to grow, and get in contact with us as well. We love hearing from you guys, and we usually respond to everyone. I think sometimes they become
our
stuck.
friends.
Yeah, sometimes the messages get stuck in the in that spam section, but we're usually pretty good at responding. But yeah,
most of the time.
Most of the time. But yeah, until next time, guys, we will see you again.
See you soon, guys.